Good afternoon. Enable, engage, elevate, and extend. Welcome to your new classroom. Hello, my name is Mauricio Rivera-Quijano, and I am an educational developer here at CTL, an education program coordinator at the School of Public Health. This is my first webinette, and I hope this topic will help you. In 2020, I moved from Faculty of Science to the School of Public Health, and during the early days of the pandemic, I worked with all the instructors to ensure the design, the development, and the delivery of all our program and courses online. And now I am doing the same, but in a hybrid mode, means having our students at distance and on campus at the same time. Let's make a retrospective. Do you remember Tuesday, March 17, 2020, when we received a notification that all our activities from that moment on, we move online, and it was a lot of questioning challenges. For many of us, it was a real challenge. Personally, I always be hesitant with the camera, a little nervous. I didn't feel like my accent was good, the most appropriate for having the camera. And that for me, it was a challenge and a change, but also was a moment to innovate. Many of us has idea, put in practice ideas, how innovate the classroom in a virtual and online mode. And the role has been changed because we learned that in many cases, we became like the coach of the learning process for our students. But in September 2020, back to the normal. Hybrid mode is now there, and with the hybrid mode, new challenge. We discovered that probably our classrooms are not that have not the appropriate technology for the hybrid mode and other things that we didn't know. But what we find now is some courses are fully in person. Some other courses are fully online. We're still having courses fully online. And some courses are hybrid, where students attend class either in person or remotely at the same time. Now, we can ask ourselves the following questions. What did we learn in the past 2 years? How have our attitudes vis-a-vis technology changed? How have students' attitude changed during the same period of time? And by asking ourselves this question, we are going to move into the model that we are going to talk today. Let's explore the 4E, enable, engage, elevate, and extend framework. Enable new type of learning activities. Engage a student in a meaningful interaction with others and the course content. Elevate the learning activities by including real-world skills that benefit the students beyond the classroom. And finally, extend the time, place, and ways that students can master learning objectives. Personally, I believe that there is a place for the 5th E. That is in my perspective. Expand the classroom beyond the walls. It can be close to extend, but the expansion take elements from elevate, extend, creating a holistic view of the classroom. This can be another topic for a conversation, how we can imagine the classroom in our university and other universities in the next 5 or 10 years. Another element that is important to keep in mind and in consideration all the time when we are trying to implement these 4 elements, enable, engage, elevate, and extend in our classroom, is EDI and indigenization principle in our courses. Enable means how we use the technology to change our teaching model. Can be an example, be in the classroom and connect via Zoom or similar with distance students. In-person students are invited in the classroom in a hybrid mode to connect, and everyone is connected with locally and with the students outside. And the communication become multidirectional. It's not the communication paradigm where the instructor communicates to the class, and the class sometimes someone raise the hand and ask the question. Now it's different. Enable bring another concept, the RAT framework. RAT for replace, amplify, and transform the entire learning process. You will see here in the slide some example of the RAT implementation. Replacing a lecture in a classroom by the same via Zoom can be efficient in terms of cost, but with limited pedagogical gains. However, producing a team paper rather than an individual one as an assignment is better and cannot be created easily without the technology. And in this last example, the production of a paper become a creative team exercise and amplify and change the learning process thanks to the technology. You will find in the chat the reference to the article where the concept of the 4E is based. I invite you to go there and download the document. It was published by EduCourse last year in February 2022, and it's extremely interesting and full of references. Engage. Engagement has different meanings. For instance, we can talk about teaching engagement. Each one of us has in mind someone that was inspiration during our school years. For me, without a question, my model is my literature instructor in high school. As a professional, a professor in science, in the Faculty of Science here at the University of Alberta, that was able to capture the attention of each one of his students by the creativity of his teaching approach. I will come back later. For an instructor, engagement could be defined as a student participation in the class. However, a student engagement is more and sometimes difficult to define because it's not only an action, it's a group attitude in the classroom. A student engagement involves our first three dimensions, set of dimensions: behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. Behavioral, we can see it. Emotional, we can feel it. And cognitive, we can analyze it. The PIC framework presents the students' interaction on their three different dimensions. The interaction can be passive, interactive, and creative. And as you can see, what we do in the classroom can be a combination of the first three dimensions with the PIC dimensions. Example, taken from the interdisciplinary science course that happened in the classroom, the white powder exercise in chemistry course. The professor that I mentioned before, the first day of class arrived with a small plastic bag having inside suspected white powder, and explained to the students that the night before he was unable to sleep, and he decided to walk on Jasper Avenue where he lives, and someone sell him that little plastic bag with the powder. White powder. I was in the classroom observing, and I was surprised. And now all the students were surprised, watching each other. What does mean? And I say, don't tell me that you bring an illegal substance to the classroom. And the professor smiling say, Mauricio, if you want really to know what exactly is inside, you have to come and attend all my classes. And at the end of the term, you will be able to know exactly what is inside. And during the term, students were involved in a series of experiments to identify the substance inside. I attended 2 or 3 during the semester, and every time was talking about the white powder and making some proof to see what exactly it was. Online example taken from the master's degree in public health program. A group of students in a different geographical areas and time zone study, analyze, and prepare a presentation about the COVID vaccination plan, how it is going to be deployed in a specific country. Select in the country selected by the team. Each member played the role of leader involved in the plan. Minister of Health, in some countries, the army was involved. Some teams decide to make a pre-recorded video, other made a press conference format, other a roundtable forum. An example also take from an example of type of engagement. Take from the first course in the School of Public Health for the master program. We introduced in 2020 this exercise because we have a large number of international students, and we considered that it was necessary to implement some introductory component to help them and help many of our local students to understand the indigenous history, culture, and colonization drama. The first 2 days, the students need to review 6 models of the indigenous Canada MOOC behavior, and that is the behavioral and cognitive and passive dimensions involved. The indigenous Canada MOOC is available on Coursera platform. The third day, students need to participate in a Zoom conversation with indigenous elder and knowledge keeper and discuss about the models. And that is emotional and interactive. At the end, after that, students need to submit their own personal reflection about how they feel after these activities and write their personal land acknowledgement. And there we have the 3 dimensions, the first 3 dimensions, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive, and also creative as well. Oh, pardon. Elevate, raise or lift up something to a higher position. We need to develop activities, task, project, presentation, paper, etc. in an authentic context and move from the unrealistic to realistic and more real scenarios. In public health, we introduced in 2020 the scenarios about the COVID vaccination that can be implemented in the student social geographical context. At that moment where the vaccines were in the research process, we didn't have the vaccines, but we knew that everyone, all the companies and universities were involved in that research, fighting against at that time to bring us the vaccine. This is a typical example of real scenario with social learning environment, including 4 C's plus education, citizenship, and social emotional skills. I'm going to come back later to explain what is the 4 C's definition. To elevate our learning activity, it's important to take in consideration the level of authenticity. In the graphic, we can see the image of the space as an unrealistic context, probably taken from the Star Wars. And the realistic one shows the planet where we can easily identify North American map. And the last image shows us a real image of how the planet looks from the space. How to elevate our learning activities to achieve a 4 C's. And what does mean the 4 C's? Now we can ask a question. Do our classroom and hybrid learning strategies elevate the learning activities to include real-world skills that benefit students beyond the classroom? In the article, you will find the partnership for 21st century learning framework, where authors identify as an essential skill for successful students responding to the society needs in the century, the 4 C skills. That is communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creative skills. In 2013, Ontario Education released a paper named Great Excellence, launching the new stage of Ontario's education agenda. And they identified 2 more skills: character education, which means honesty, self-regulation, and responsibility, perseverance, empathy for contributing to the society and benefits of others, self-confidence, personal health, well-being, career and life skills. And the second one is citizenship, global knowledge, sensitivity to and respect for other cultures, active involvement in addressing issues of human and environmental sustainability. None of these skills can be obtained in isolation or individual context. They are the results of social interaction with others. One key element that we learned since 2020 is the fact that our students use the technology to communicate, to collaborate, to socialize with others. Now, our hybrid classroom are not only face-to-face or in person, but it's also face to the personal screen. It can be laptop or a tablet. Extend in time and location modalities how the student learn. And the extension, we can see the classroom plus the full integration of LMS. LMS is Learning Management System, and our LMS at the University of Alberta, known as eClass, is in reality the real name is Moodle. That is our LMS. Expanding the LMS typical use, and that is, for example, when we decide not only to use for posting or for adding our PDF document, but adding, for instance, the global glossary tool inside the class, and start adding definition concept inside, and each concept or keyword that we identify and add in the global glossary, the explanation can be text, image, or video. Automatically, the word identified or add into global glossary become a hyperlink. And the hyperlink, when the students click, a pop-up window comes with a definition, and the definition can be so rich that you can add a short video or a picture to explain the concept. And that brings us the term of interoperability. That is important. The ability of computer system, of software to exchange and make use of information. Interoperability between devices made by different manufacturers. As a matter of fact, I am using a Windows machine, and probably you are using an Apple machine, or you are using a tablet or a cell phone, and we are communicating without any problem. Interoperability means that more useful information can be shared in a timely manner. For instance, a patient that goes to the lab for a blood test receive the notification when the results are available, the notification in his telephone. At the same time that the doctor received the notification, and if there are necessity for a follow-up, the doctor receive a red flag and the patient as well. That is an example of interoperability in the real life. Local examples: Vertrax, eClass, and Google Apps, 3 different platforms. We discovered during the pandemic that by creating our contents in Google Docs, we can easily embed those documents in class and edit, modify, change inside the class or in Google Docs, and the update happens automatically, transparently. At the end of our term, we export our grade to the Vertrax without any problem. That is a typical example of local interoperability. Another 2 examples is eClass and Respondos. Respondos is a piece of software that you can download on IST website and help you to build a robust question data bank, and you can build your exam, randomize your questions, and create rules for your exams, and after that export that into your e-class course, and students can receive different kind of exams or with a randomized question, and no one is going to receive the same exam. It can be exam or quizzes or surveys. E-class, Julia, and Zoom is the last example of interoperability. E-class, you have e-class, you add inside e-class Julia icon and Zoom icon. You create your schedule. You schedule your Zoom presentation inside e-class, and after that, when you start making your presentation or delivering your course, you didn't select recording, and rather than spending time after your class to download to your local computer and after that export to another platform, you make the job for you, take the recording and add it to your personal channel, and after that you can put available the video presentation to your students. This last year require more institutional involvement because the repercussion in time, location, and modalities are elements that cannot be decided in a classroom. Last September, we returned to the classroom with a baggage of full new experiences. Can we come back as it is where it was before? It's a good question. Can we use our experience and assets learned during those 2 years, more than 2 years, to improve our teaching approach? That is the question that I leave with you. And thank you for attending. And I invite you, all of you, to visit our website, CTL. And if you want to know more, to ask for a consultation.